Welcome everyone to today's episode of Healing Within, where we dive deep into the transformative world of yoga, somatic healing, and inner child work. I'm thrilled to have a special guest with us, Manjushree, a trauma trained somatic and inner child therapist who beautifully integrates the wisdom of yoga and nature into her practice. Manjushree, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Yoga. Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. Yeah.
Let's start with your story. What inspired you to become a trauma trained somatic and inner child therapist who incorporates yoga into healing?
Okay. So I started my yoga journey back in 2004. It was just a um, it was not a very natural thing to me because I was introduced to yoga by some sort of force by my mother, and then it just happened, and I started learning, and then I dived deeper and deeper into it because I started feeling very nice about practicing all these asanas. And it was very natural for me to go ahead with, you know, becoming obsessed as I hear by everybody. You
Mm,
become obsessed with yoga when you start practicing with it.
yeah.
But then I realized, okay, I need to do something more in this because yoga is not just about practicing asanas or just, sitting in one corner of room and just, closing your eyes and
Yeah.
meditating. So then during lockdown, I think I was diving more and more deeper into finding resources for myself, like, what else can I do?
Mm,
It was not just about like moving more towards doing more, but I also wanted to heal myself.
mm,
Uh, and so somatic work came very naturally. So I would say it was a natural extension of what I was doing already.
mm.
Uh, it is really funny when I say this. I was actually looking for craniosacral therapy. I wanted
Okay.
to learn, but because of lockdown, this was not happening back
Mm,
then.
mm.
So this person where I was inquiring, this person asked me, like, "Are you interested in somatic work?" And I was
Okay.
like, "What does this mean?"
Yeah.
Because I had no idea
Greek and
about.
Latin. Mm,
Yeah, it was so alien for me. And then I did some research here and there, and I felt, yeah, let me just give it a try.
right. Mm,
And then I was like, okay, yeah, it was full 1 year, intensive, extensive, very deep learning as a
mm,
practitioner. And that gave me an opportunity to really dive more into understanding that, okay, what can I do more in terms of combining yoga and somatics together.
mm, mm,
But it did not happen until I graduated out of my master's in 2021, and then somatic, and then now with inner child and advanced inner child and family constellation. So now it becomes even more sort of my responsibility because I have been in yoga for more than 15 plus years now. So now it feels like, oh, I need to bring out something more about yoga
yeah.
out in the world. And
Mm.
somatic really blends that really beautifully. And this is one thing that I really want to put out
Give to
in
the
front,
people. Yeah.
that yoga is beautifully, it merges with somatic work and also helps in trauma healing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible. It sounds like yoga, somatic, and inner child has played a huge role in your life. How has your personal experience with yoga shaped, also somatic, shaped your
Yeah.
approach in inner child healing?
Okay. So this is very interesting. And I really fancy this question
Thank you.
because it really connects with me, with my
Mm,
work, what I. So, like I said, yoga was it was ongoing with me. And then somatics, when somatics happened, like I said, I was diving more and more deeper into it.
mm,
That's how the more research came out to me. And it is quite interesting when I say this. Back in my master's, while I was doing my master's, my subject of my dissertation was also human behaviors and how yoga psychology helps us in that.
mm,
Plus, connecting with somatic psychology. I did not know anything about that, but it was just a research that I was doing, and it connected beautifully. And now, in terms of my personal experience and my own healing, is that somatically, everything helped me to like really process all of my emotions of the past experiences in my body.
Mm,
And when we talk about yoga, when you are practicing yoga, it's you are actually truly experiencing all of these emotions while you're practicing yoga,
mm,
while you're in the asana. So that really brought out a lot of I would say connections where why I was not able to do particular asanas, or why they triggered me to an
the
extent that
blocks showed up. Mm,
yeah. So certain way it made me disconnected from myself, and I always thought, oh no, probably yoga is just not meant for me to do. But then when I started healing more and more with somatics, that's when I started relating. Okay, if I have to do certain asana, if I have to practice certain asana, I really have to dig more into my emotional landscape within. That is when, I will be able to practice asana more. But in terms of personal healing later on, this helped me both the integration of somatic and yoga.
mm,
When they combine together, they help me bring out much better energy balance in me, and healing was accelerated in a much better way, creating very sustainable and radical transformation for me. So it's just sort of like a complete whole healing that was happening. It was not something like, okay, I did one thing one day and another day, another day. There was no piecemealing here. When I was practicing yoga and somatics, both together, they brought out a complete integration of what I was expecting out of
yeah.
healing. So it was a very radical
Like
transformation.
merge with each
Yeah,
other, right? Okay.
right. Yeah,
Yoga, as such, is a powerful tool, especially when it comes to addressing trauma. What
yeah.
role do specific yogic practices like pranayama, meditation, or asanas play in somatic healing as such?
Okay. So let me start by saying that as we all know, there are eight parts, eight limbs that are known as yoga. Um, there are yamas, niyamas, asanas, and then pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, right?
Mm,
So in trauma healing, how these specific tools help us is that, what happens in trauma, let's go back there first, is that there is dissociation and disintegration of our self, right? Because uh, when we are hit by a trauma, let's say when we are hit by an accident, what happens is that we want to separate ourselves from that pain, because in that moment that pain is too overwhelming and too much for us to handle.
okay.
uh, Adults may, I would say, they may be able to cope with such kind of events if they have received right kind of support. But for child, it is not possible, because child is always dependent on the adults. So when something like that happens, suppose in childhood or in adult life, um, so there's a fragmentation that is happening,
Mm,
right? But when it comes to yoga and somatic healing, the practices that are followed there is with yoga, it is we all know yoga means union. So um, in literal sense, if I have to say, in comparison with somatic healing, it's like yoga is telling you to, probably the ancient folks, Patanjali himself maybe was hinting at something like, there are disintegrated parts in us, and we need to, bring all those parts together, and that
together.
is when yoga is happening in you. So
Mm,
yoga is not something external, it is
internal.
within. It is
Mm,
you, it is a part of you, and it is you, it becomes you. You
mm,
are yoga and yoga is you, right? And in terms of somatic healing as well, uh, the core essence of somatic healing is integration.
mm,
Like all the fragmented parts are coming back to you, and then you're healing within, and then you're integrating yourself. So what happens here is that when it comes to working together, both yoga and this, the aspect of yoga that really helps us is all of these. going through the process of body, that is through asanas, you're actually cleansing your nervous system and you're
Mm.
balancing the energy of the body and expanding your nervous system. And when that happens, your breath becomes uh, more expanded, it's more centered, it's more grounded.
Mm.
And it is also a center point where asana and your other practices like meditation are, it's a sort of
A
a middle.
combination. Mm.
Okay, it's a middle point, and through breath you are able to like retain your capacity. And the end point of yoga that says samadhi or liberation or nirvana, whatever, isn't that what we all want in our
Yeah.
lives? Like,
Yeah.
not, I'm not talking about that, what saints or,
Literal. Mm.
yes, but in as a common person, as a layman, we all want liberation from the past experiences, that
Totally.
stuckness that we have, right, from the past experiences. So yoga really helps us bring that. And in terms of somatic healing, these practices really blend well because somatic healing is body-based trauma healing modality,
Mm.
and yoga is both body and mental based,
Mind.
right? So practices of yoga really correlates with trauma healing through somatic work. And when you practice that each day, every day, day in and day out, obviously there's going to be a lot of energy cleansing that is happening. Um, the energies are moving, the stack energies really start to fly up, the prana goes up, and the energy is more, and there is an expansion.
Mm.
So, uh, both science and indigenous practice together can be a really powerful tool when it comes to trauma healing.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's like a total sum of all the collective energies that give yoga, which gives yoga and which combines the somatic and gives you the release of all the trauma which is in your body. And you, it like doesn't hold you back and it tends you to move forward,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You also emphasize the importance of connecting with nature. Why this is so vital for integrating the mind and body to connect with nature as such.
Okay. Um, See, all of the trauma that we see mostly in the modern setup is that we have lost the connection uh, with the village of people, with the village of nature. Being like, if you see some 10 years back, if we go 10 years back, how life was, we were more connected with nature. We would go out. There were less
Nature,
number of malls.
people,
Yes,
animals. Mm,
yes, animals. And then there was less number of malls, and people would look out for gardens, parks, where they could, spend time with their families. But as and when, like, there's evolution that keeps on happening, and there are changes that are which are inevitably, that we have to accept that changes are going to happen. But nature is always going to be part of us because we are part of the nature.
mm.
We cannot be two separate
Two
entities,
separate
right?
entities. Yeah.
So we come from nature, and we have to be in connection with nature for us to really uh, come back to in connection with ourselves. Nature grounds us, nature connects us, and nature heals us because
Yeah.
uh, if you know about these broadly spoken chemicals of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, oxytocin, melatonin, what are these? When we are in circadian rhythm with along with the nature,
Mm,
uh, all of these neurotransmitters that are produced in our body, they naturally help us produce. But
yeah.
when we are in dissociation, when we are disconnected from the nature, obviously the the need to bring that energy in us has to, we have to put in 200% of energy probably. Whereas as compared to if you go out in nature, go out in the sun, your vitamin D is there, your
Mm,
circadian becomes natural and rhythmic. So naturally you will sleep at night at a proper time, and then when you have a good night's sleep in the morning, you're again, you're
like,
fresh and energized.
yeah.
This is exactly how the nature also works, right? The sun goes down
Mm,
and sun
yeah.
comes up. This is how our body also has to be there. And also, when you go out and you are out in the nature, you're with sitting with the trees, with the
Mm,
plants, the birds, the sound, the frequency of the nature is so healing
mm.
that when you come back, you feel like, what
Refresh.
is this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because everything inside our body is, synchronized there.
True.
So you don't
Actually,
have to do
mm,
extra effort.
yeah. Actually, to add on this, they say like when you are very angry or when you're very in a panic mode, just go
Yeah,
hug a tree because the tree has a rhythmic pattern which
yeah,
equalizes or balances with your breathing pattern.
yeah,
And then when
yeah,
you go in harmony, you become like calm and grounded.
yeah.
Same way, if you are like very much tensed, it's like you had to walk barefoot because the Earth's magnetic field just
Yes,
stimulates your nerve endings. Yeah, that's so beautiful.
yeah,
And it's very easy also, right?
yeah.
Rather
And
going,
what what happens is, when you're angry, your breath is very shallow and
yeah,
rapid.
mm,
So the oxygen level in your brain is lesser than in the normal times.
mm.
So go out and hug the tree
Tree hug.
is that you are actually breathing the oxygen in, and because of the grounding of the tree's energy or the nature's energy, your breathing rhythm
It
becomes normal.
harmonizes. Yeah,
Yes, and then
balances.
harmony, and then oxygen reaches to your brain so that then you calm down and then you come back to your senses.
True. Yeah.
So this is why, in any form of healing, if you do not connect with nature, it's very difficult for you to accelerate your healing. In
Mm,
any, not just talking about trauma, but also if you are bedridden
mm,
because of some illness, take out at least 15 to 20 minutes to sit out on the
yeah,
grass, in the sun, if that is allowed to you, in the sun, of course. Um, you see how your body starts to respond to healing in much positive way than just sitting in the darker setup of a room.
true.
Yeah.
Very true. That's so beautiful. Manjushri, your work is also deeply influenced by indigenous wisdom and practices. How do
Yeah.
these traditions shape your healing methods?
Okay. So when it comes to my modality,
Mm,
what for even in terms of somatic healing in a child, uh, this somatic healing is a very modern term, but the practices goes way back to indigenous times. All the cultures,
mm,
be it India, be it Egyptian, be it Red Indians, the shamans,
mm,
and many more cultures like Chinese traditional medicine, everyone followed their cultural indigenous wisdom of nature. And like I said before, we cannot separate ourselves from nature. So
nature.
in my modality as well, as far as possible, I have brought in wisdom of yoga, wisdom
Mm,
of nature, and of course the scientific aspects of somatic healing
mm,
together, so that there is a proper culmination of holistic healing so that the clients may benefit from.
mm.
So rituals like, not just with asana practices or breathing, breath work, or meditations, but rituals like, going instead of journaling at home, I
Mm.
normally recommend, if you have a park or a tree nearby, just go there and sit down under a tree,
The whole
listen to the
experience is like different.
that yes, so that the more that is also one way that you deliberately you go out, you
Mm.
push the client
Push yourself. Yeah.
so that the client can come out of the freeze or stuckness they have in their body. They don't want to, sometimes they just don't want to go out. They're so comfortable being in the house because that is what their experience has been. They
Mm.
feel so scared of going out and being there out. So the the sustainable way for them to, to help them go out and be out with the people is the first connection is the connection of the nature.
Nature.
So
Mm.
I ask them to, like, why don't you just go out, sit with the tree and journal there,
Yeah.
so that they have the connection of a tree, they can have a chat, they can write down whatever they feel like, because ultimately, we have to go out and speak out in the world. We cannot
Mm.
be isolated for a very, very long time. So it is important and imperative for the practices to be included in a way that the clients receive sustainable and tangible results. And that
Mm.
is possible if you go and do
Connect
about
with nature. Yeah.
the indigenous practices. That is, the first point is the nature. And then there are many other ways that they can do is they can go for Tai Chi practices,
Okay.
very slow movements, so that, their nervous system slowly picks up that energy.
Mm.
Or they love going out and dipping in the water,
Mm.
like spending time in the waters is also one of the indigenous practices that people would do. Uh, Second one that I highly recommend is go out and the community practices, like,
Mm.
the spiritual practices of satsangs
Yeah.
or seva. Just go out and bring out that gratitude so that, you are in a village
The
of people
collective
where,
energy. Yeah.
yes, the collective energy and people who are willing to support you. Of course, I would ask them, like, if that is comfortable for them to start with, and if the community is safe for you to go out and speak with them. I'm not telling them to, like, really go out and share their stories, no. But slowly, steadily, being with other humans helps us also heal and connect, because obviously we are mirroring each other's neurons, and someone else's nervous system is healing us and
Can
ours
influence.
is.
Yeah.
So the community, seva and service and going out in the nature, probably also feed some animals or birds. These are all practices of indigenous cultures. Animals were part of us.
Mm.
When it's just beautiful how clients learn to integrate all of these practices, and this becomes a whole of something that I bring in the modality. Of course, there are some other rigorous practices of thought processes through yoga and through somatics,
Mm.
and also the inner child work. But in terms of indigenous, this is one thing that I really ask them to do in
Yeah.
the session.
This is actually it takes us to our old our culture, right? They ask us to go to a temple,
Yeah,
pray, and
yeah,
get connected to the satsang, sing songs, be there.
yes,
And then they
yes,
also ask us to, like my grandmom used to say, like, we have to dip our legs in the pond, the temple's pond. That is very mandatory thing which we had followed years and years together. And
yeah.
when we come and address it in the science point of view, then that is also giving a direct answer, right? That how you heal yourself. Oh,
Yes, yes.
that's so beautiful. Okay, Manjushree, trauma can be so deeply ingrained that clients may not even be aware of it. How do you identify and address these traumas that remains hidden or unconscious?
Um, I actually, there are 3 points here. One is I try to look up for their language,
Mm.
like what is stuck in their mind. What is the repetitive language that they
The
have been
words.
speaking to
Mm.
themselves?
Mm.
Okay. Second, then each of these languages have their emotional tone, then their body language,
Mm.
and um, like their how they are responding to what I'm saying. Sometimes they are not even ready to look at me in the eyes. They might be drifting somewhere. So there are some sensory inputs that I try to look up for, and mostly it is through a lot of dialogues. We cannot directly go inside of the body initially. It is
Mm.
always through dialogue and through the language that we have to identify what is really happening with this person.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not just about the words, but the meaning behind those words are very important.
Okay.
Sometimes client may say, "Yeah, I'm fine," but then I will be like, "Okay,
Are you? Okay.
um, yeah, you're fine. Okay, so
Mm.
then the process
It
of speaking.
continues. Yeah.
So it's a mapping of their core language, their mental language, their emotional tone, their body language, the
You
way they are
become a
sitting.
detective in detecting their traumas, right? You dig deep and you
Not
just
exactly detective,
kind of.
not exactly detective, but yeah, I always keep a track of
Mm.
how their body is while they're speaking to me
Yeah.
more than their words. I love looking at them, and I'm very curious to see, okay, what is happening.
Uh, that's so beautiful. Inner child healing is a key part of your work. How does reconnecting with inner child help release
Yeah.
deep-seated pain?
Um, See, like I said, most of the traumas happen inside the four walls of the
Mm,
house.
mm,
People have this notion that okay, trauma is has to be something in the big event, like some big accident or some wars or some violence. Of course, they are a definition of trauma,
mm.
but trauma can also be the definition where it's happening inside the four walls, where um, it could be as little as maybe a parent is
A
coming
child
home
not
after
getting a chocolate.
yeah,
Mm,
parent may be coming from office after a long day's work, back home, and the child comes immediately and says, "Hey, mama," and then the mother or father may be like, "I'm so tired. Can you just
yeah,
come back later?" Well, for the child, that is very
it's a
traumatic
welcome. Yeah.
because the expectation of the child is
Sure.
just that my parent should look at me.
Mm,
That the child doesn't think anything else because the child is very pure. So that is the moment where a part of child is taken out
yeah.
from its energy, from its body, because then the child learns, okay, it's not right for me to really go and hug my parent
Mm,
because they may not like it.
yeah.
So the child, okay, maybe I am not wanted here.
Mm.
And then the
I'm not
child goes back.
seen. Mm,
Yeah, probably, yeah, that's the language, right?
true.
So the child shrinks itself, and growing up as an adult, again, whenever um, the child has to approach somebody, that adult may feel like, oh, maybe I am not so important here.
Mm,
So the past experiences is always playing out even in your adult,
reflected. Yeah.
right? And this is how when you work with your inner child could be some 15-year-old kid, or it could be your 5-year-old memory, or it could be just 1 minute before your
Mm, yeah.
whatever that your life is at a moment. um, so when you work with your inner child, it is something so beautiful that you will literally go back to that incidence. You work there, you reintegrate that process, you come out, and you bring back something that is so healing for you.
Mm,
And now that experience that was in the past, it is released. And when that happens, you are coming back to yourself now, in your
mm,
true power, in your true authentic self. And then you come to an understanding that, oh, I don't have to carry that past experience
past.
in the present, in this moment, because that was maybe that was not true in true sense, because the parent now
Maybe
as
it
an
was from
adult,
a helpless mom. Yeah.
yeah,
Her own
so
inner
now
child. Mm,
as an adult you now understand that probably my parent also had some
same
sort
story.
of pain or something like that. So you come to an understanding that okay, that may not have been true, so I don't have to carry that past now, and I'm free from it.
Yeah.
So now you actually you come back to your power, and you may go out and speak up for yourself, stand up for yourself, and show your true essence. And when you're true to yourself, the world really loves that. World
That's like,
accepts the way that you are, right? You're not masking to be someone else.
yeah. That's like a true freedom, also a complete liberation, right? From your past
Yeah,
old self. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Mindfulness has become a buzzword, but it's also an integral part of healing. What role does mindfulness play in trauma recovery and inner child work?
Okay. So mindfulness, I would say it's something where, you know, like a lot of people have many definitions, but for
Yeah.
me, I feel mindfulness is simply just being aware of
Mm.
your surroundings. Okay, your when I say surroundings, it's also you're being aware of yourself
Body. Yeah.
with within
Mm.
within your mind, within your body, and how are you responding out in the world when a situation is arising. And I'm not saying how quickly you can respond or how swift you can be, but
Mm.
at least being aware. Oh, okay, I do not have to be reactive here, but I can always be,
You can respond.
yeah, in a way that can help me solve the issue at a
Mm.
moment. Okay,
Yeah.
so you are not in a rush to um, bring out solution, but
So,
first you become aware of what is actually needed at the moment.
mm.
So this comes from very little experiences where you first become aware of your breath, that you're mindful. Oh, I'm breathing this way. And then if
Yeah.
you are hurt somewhere, you become mindful. Oh, probably my body is feeling hurt here right now.
Mm.
Once you become start becoming aware of little things that are happening around, if you feel like, oh, I'm feeling very agitated today, then you become aware that, oh,
And where the
yeah,
feeling
something.
of agitation is there. Yeah.
Yeah,
In the body. Mm.
you put that awareness comes to you, then you become mindful of it. That's it. There's no big heavy definition of mindfulness.
Yeah.
At least I don't believe in that way. I feel it is very important to see little things that is around you, and that is mindfulness.
That is like a beautiful culmination of the whole concept of
Yeah.
mindfulness. To watch the full video, link is in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.